A person much wiser than me once said, "Anxiety is a sneaky bitch." I was thinking of ways to sort of introduce the channel, what kind of videos I wanted to make in the beginning, so people would get to know me. I was thinking about making like a gear video to show you all the cameras that I shoot with, maybe a video about my favorite film stocks that I've shot. I don't know, maybe just like a tips and tricks sort of thing. But instead, I thought I would come on here and talk about something a little less talked about, something way more fun. Anxiety. Because, photographers' anxiety is a real thing. But I feel like I never hear people talk about it. Even when I try to Google it, I come up pretty short. So rather than speak on anyone else's experience, I thought I would just address my own struggles with anxiety. I've been shooting film for about 2 years now. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I was gifted an SLR by my best friend's mom. It was a Canon FTB QL. And I bought a few rolls and I tried it out. And my photos were so-so, but I didn't really care. To be completely blunt, I was born in '96, so I was sort of raised in a digital age where I was just constantly inundated with a rapidly evolving technology. So when I started shooting film when I was like 23, it was a novelty, like many other analog art forms. So that leads me to the next step in the evolution, which is that I actually started trying to learn how film and film cameras worked. And I don't know if you guys were this way, but when I was a kid, things just were what they were, and they worked because that's the way it was. It was just sort of an acceptance thing when I didn't understand something, like, oh yeah, that's just how it works. For instance, I've been shooting with digital cameras my whole life. I do it for a living. But if you were to actually sit down and ask me how a digital camera does what it does, like what are the ones and zeros involved in taking this video and putting it on YouTube and showing it to you, I think my head would explode trying to even understand it. And so many things fall into this category, right? I mean, how the do planes fly? I mean, can anyone explain it? It's baffling. So foolishly, I was under the impression that because film photography was sort of this like outdated medium, that it must be simple, which hopefully you already know is far from the truth. So what do? You start going online, reading online forums like Reddit, and watching people on YouTube like Matt Day and Grainy Days and Bad Flashes, etc., etc. And you start picking up the vastness of this once simple hobby. And you call yourself a hobbyist until you get to the point where you're enthusiastic enough about it to call yourself an enthusiast. And then the story goes that you start to do your own research and you read and you hear all the loving and warm things that other people have to say about film photography, and you start to take it a little bit more seriously. Dare I say, it becomes something of a passion. And here is where the anxiety comes in. When people used to ask me why I was shooting film, I would tell them one thing mostly. I'm doing it for the vibes? No, that can't be right. No, but seriously, I would tell them that it forced me to slow down. And that was because I was convinced that the speed and the hustle and bustle of modern day society was the source of all of my anxieties. And to be completely candid, I was half right about that. There are a lot of things in our world that are anxiety inducing. And there are different things that are going to act as a catalyst for different people. And for me, I discovered that my biggest enemy was time in all of its aspects. Feeling like time's going too fast, feeling like it's not going fast enough, feeling like I don't have enough time, feeling like there aren't enough hours in the day, days in the year, years in a lifetime to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. Pile that on top of the crushing weight that it could all be cut short by some faulty brakes or a sudden random brain failure, and what you get is something akin to like a walking paralysis. My head starts to get foggy, I start sweating, my stomach feels like it either wants to vomit or the other one, and it can't decide which. I could be having a completely normal conversation with someone and be completely checked out. So when people ask me why I shoot film and I tell them it's so I could slow time down, I'm not lying to them. It very much is an activity where I could be more deliberate, more cerebral, more intentional, more conscious, and engaged with the product that I'm trying to make. But it is a double-edged sword in that way, because as I mentioned, I don't do too well with the idea of wasting time. Add on top of that you can get your photos back and they could look like complete garbage. Add on top of that the financial anxieties of a hobby that has regained its popularity and demand. Add on top of that you have this counter on the top of your camera that is slowly counting upwards to 36, and when it gets to 36, that means it's all over. And what happens if I shoot that final frame and then something magically walks into the room and it's the most interesting thing I've ever seen, and I have no way of capturing it? I reached a point in like mid-2022 where it was taking me forever to finish a roll of film. I was getting super critical and hesitant and overall just too anxious to take a photo. You know, Henri Cartier-Bresson had his whole decisive moment thing. And for a good while, I kind of ascribed to that, but I also was succumbing to the weight of thoughts like, what if the moment never comes and all these minutes and hours were just wasted? Or on the flip side, what if the moment does come and I miss it? I would set my camera up, I would advance the film, I would check all my settings, I would put my eye to the eyepiece, I would take a deep breath, and suddenly I would doubt every decision I ever made about anything, ever. And you know what didn't help was that the Canon FTB that I got from my friend's mom was a fully mechanical camera and it had no working light meter. I replaced the batteries and nothing, just completely dead. So most of the time I was just winging it, relying on the Sunny 16 rule and just taking wild swings. And then I got a camera with a working light meter and an automatic setting. The Minolta XG7. Oh, it's actually right here. This one right here. Oddly enough, my anxiety started lifting, but not completely. I mean, I still set the camera up, check out the frame, breathe, think about it for 2 seconds, and then pull away without taking the photo. But I guess I just beat myself up about it a little less nowadays. If you made it this far into the video, I do want to apologize because I feel like you may have been expecting a happy ending, or at the very least a rousing tale about how I beat my anxiety. But the truth is, it's still a consistent thing in my life. One that gets easier to manage the more that I do it, but not one that I see going away anytime soon. The real work is through finding a workaround that maintains the fun of shooting film. I think it's about reinforcing those aspects more than anything. Something that I assume many others out there struggle with is a fear of failure. The fear of getting your scans back and they're completely blank, or the focus was off on every shot, or whatever. There are those people out there, those aesthetic junkies, who shoot for the vibes and for the tones, and they're not really bothered by the imperfections. Imperfections are, in fact, part of the charm and appeal of film photography for a lot of people. And to a degree, I feel the same way, but I'd be lying if I said that I was thrilled every time I take an unexpected trip to Light Leak City. I'm just spitballing here, but I think that those things sting a little bit more because of the deliberate nature of film photography. Because you take care and you take the time to get everything right, and something like a busted light seal can ruin all of it. Anyway, I don't have a way of wrapping this up in a pretty bow, other than to say that this video was titled Shooting Film with Anxiety, and I meant it, because I shoot film with anxiety. And I probably will for a long time, if I'm being honest. But if you're familiar with the story of Sisyphus and the boulder and the hill and all that, you know that part of finding peace is learning to love the struggle. So, I mean, I'm not there yet, but I'm not giving up anytime soon. And that's all I gotta say about that. Sorry for the downer ending, but hopefully this can open up a dialogue between photographers who struggle with this but have avoided sort of talking about it. Maybe there are other reasons why you get anxious taking photos on film, and I'd love to hear them, and I'd love to talk about them. I promise that not all my videos henceforth will be this bleak. I do intend to keep it light on this channel, but I thought that this would be an interesting way to introduce myself and open up a discussion and get to know some of you guys out there that are watching. So, without further ado, I'll see you on the next one. Let's hear how my guitar sounds. Hell yeah.